let's go ahead and bring up the panel, and you'll see that I have a value here, 77, and the two checkboxes checked over here. And let me also show you what the settings dialog component looks like. So components, settings dialog, and you'll notice here we have in our props the defaults now, and we have two values here, the original settings as well as the settings. This is the one that, like I mentioned, will be driving the form. Okay, so I'm going to change values here for a different one every 5 seconds maybe, and no sound. But then instead of saving, I want to close this panel. And before I do that, let's take a look at the settings object here. It has now the 5 true and false, whereas the original settings is the same as the defaults that we got in here from the parent component, or VApp. I'm going to close now, and you'll notice that settings was assigned the original settings value again. Okay, so that worked. Also, if I'm trying to add a new remote, you'll notice that this time around we're using the value that is on the store. And the way we accomplished that is, let me close everything here and open up the remote form. This is how I did it. I modified this to be a null value, but I also changed the created lifecycle hook a little bit. So what happens here is I will be reading again the interval value here from the store. And this is something I also found that is used especially when you're trying to build Vue plugins. And what it does is it will subscribe to changes in the store, in this case to a mutation, or to every mutation in the store. And what I'm doing is I'm checking that the mutation is the one that updates the settings object in the store. And when that happens, I will update the value for this remote and will apply whatever value is part of that payload. And so I did that because I ran into something in which if I had, let's say, this form opened and I went ahead and changed the settings to be like every 10 seconds or so, then this component would catch that mutation being fired or being committed and then change the value in here. This isn't something strictly necessary, but this is the way I found out that I could solve this kind of issue that I was seeing. I wouldn't expect this to be a common use case or a normal way of doing things, so I would very much appreciate feedback on this if you have more experience and want to help out. But so far the code works as I intended, and we will be moving on to the next part of the application.